Hello everyone, this is Jake from CINECALIBER. My video today is actually going to be me covering the film Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. For you guys that don't know, this is actually one of my most anticipated films for the 2024 year. I did make a video on that, and I'm actually starting to tackle those films. Basically, on that list, I have two of them that actually were delayed since I released that video. That would be Ballerina and Beyond the Spider-Verse. And then I also had watched Dune Part II, which was also on that list. So basically, that link for that will be in the description of this video if anyone wants to see what those films are. But basically, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is part of that list as well. So basically, this film was taken over by Wes Ball. Wes Ball is famous for the Maze Runner films, and he's taking over for the great Matt Reeves. Basically, this film is like years after the last film, where Caesar was the main character, and now we're kind of going into like a new generation. So I'm going to get into that coming up right now, though. So right now we're going to actually go into the plot summary before we go over what was a hit and what was a miss, and then arguably is this a film of caliber. So here we go. Many years after the reign of Caesar, a young ape goes on a journey that will lead him to question everything he's been taught about the past and make choices that will define a future for apes and humans alike. So there we go. What was a hit for this film? The good? So let me tell you, I'd say within the first 15 minutes of the film, the narrative does such a tremendous job making you feel emotional for these characters. And it's done mostly because of the great motion effects mixed with the CGI. That's always been a plus with these films, especially since the films got rebooted back in, I think, 2011 it was, with the first Planet of the Apes, which was, I think, Dawn. Was it Dawn or Rise? I know it was one of those. But the one with James Franco, that pretty much kick-started this whole franchise, and now here we are, about 13 years later, and we're on the fourth film. But yeah, the motion effects and the CGI have always been a tremendous thing in these films. So, and the films wouldn't have been as good without that. Like, you can pretty much see the emotion in the ape's face, and you just really feel for them. And being that these are brand new characters, like the fact that they're able to draw you in within that first 15 to 20 minutes, I just think it's just astounding. Like, I'm all like kind of strapped in, ready to go and see what becomes of these new characters. Now, really, so the brand new protagonist of this film, and probably going to be this trilogy, is Noah. He's basically an ape that's kind of just trying to find his way in his tribe of apes, and they're pretty big on like birds. They use birds to kind of hunt fish for them, and they have this really strong like connection with the birds to really be able to do that. And it's kind of like their way of showing their, I would say, dominance or their worthiness as a member by being able to connect with the bird. So in the first pretty much 15-20 minutes is really just them establishing that whole like culture, which is, I thought, pretty astounding. And then as things kind of go along, it gets a little bit intense. Noah does come across another ape, an orangutan named Raka. Now, this is where we actually start to discover what's been going on since Caesar has kind of vanished, or for those that have watched it, he had died in the third film. But basically, Noah has no idea who Caesar is, and this ape Raka, when he comes across him, basically shows him the new way of being able to of basically dealing with Caesar. And then also, Noah also goes over May. The film also goes over May. May is basically a human who basically they come across, and then we find out that the humans are kind of going backwards. They're kind of more ape-like more than anything. So, um, I think the film does a very good job showing the human narrative very well. It's paced very well throughout the film, and it shows kind of both the good and bad of the humans and the whole conflict with the apes and the humans for the most part. Like, there's times where May seems like she's really good, and then all of a sudden things happen, and then they're like, wait a minute, is she really good? And yeah, I don't want to spoil too much, but basically that's what's been happening with that for the most part, like without me spoiling too much. But yeah, May is a really good character. They explore the human and ape aspect of this pretty well, but it also kind of keeps it like it only trickles it in for a little bit. So kind of a lot of this world building, you would call it, which we'll talk about here. But other than that, I mean, what was also a hit with this film was the cinematography. I mean, there were so many shots in this film that added to the overall suspense or the moment in the film itself. So, it basically captured the emotion happening at that time, or just kind of it just went along with the narrative so well. And I think they did such a great job with that. And really, the film does such a good job just telling its own story, but doing the world building, like I was saying before. Basically, this film sets up a lot of things to come in the future. So, and that's what's kind of crazy. Like, it does a lot of world building, but then the story itself is rooted very well for itself. And it's really like, this film isn't as dark. I really felt like the films of the previous were really dark, but this one really wasn't. A little bit more later, there were some dark moments, but not like, it wasn't like as depressing, I guess you would say. But overall, it does a great job. The tone is very well done. It's the tight writing, the action sequences they do an amazing job. So, and that was all that was a hit with this film. What was a miss, the bad? Really not a whole lot. I like this film a lot, really. But I felt really, at times, the film does a weird job pacing itself. But even though the pacing does feel off throughout the film at sometimes, it makes up for it by because those moments that the pacing's off, they provide some really deep character moments, especially like moments of dialogue, especially between May and Noah, and then, Rekka's just a great character, great comic relief from everything going on. Like I said, the film balances that light and dark very well. So I guess that's not too much of a miss, but you could just tell, like, sometimes you're like, okay, where's this going? Like, all right, and like, okay, and it's going good, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, it just gets a little weird, but really nothing too crazy there. But really, I think the biggest negative I thought was the villains in this film. They're very poorly written. So basically, we have Proximus Caesar, and he's basically this king pretending to be like the next Caesar and trying to get the apes to follow his rule, and he's got his own objectives, but he's barely in the film. And then even when he is, it's like he's okay, but like, I just feel like he was such a weak villain compared to some of the others we got throughout the franchise. And then he also has this General Silva, who proves to be kind of like a better antagonist overall, but he's used mostly just for like action sequences, and I guess to give Noah a more personal, like, vendetta, I guess you would say, but he really isn't handled very well either. Yeah, I didn't really think the villains were really that great. They were kind of meh, but that was just me. But that's really all I had that was a miss with this film. So now we're going to actually go into the conclusion, which is this a film of caliber? So I have to say, this film I would give a final rating of a 4 out of a 5. I mean, this film, the writing provides a great story. It's the characters, they get you emotionally invested, like as I've said before. There's some great cinematography that really keeps the mood and the narrative going. And there's just enough world building to make you wanting more. But then it also feels like it's really its own story, and it's a very satisfying chapter in the rebooted Planet of the Apes franchise. it's kind of crazy because it's like you'd think after 4 films that this franchise would start to feel kind of fatigued, but it isn't. Even after 4 films in, it feels like we're just scratching the surface, and you just don't see that with very many films. So, but yeah, 4 out of 5. I'm excited to see what's in store, and I'm excited to see if Wes Ball is going to continue directing these films. And that is all I have here for today. As always, please comment, like, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys very much.